did you start your journey as an IT professional, and how come you decided to be a generalist or a specialist, or just share some thoughts about yourself, please?
I started my journey as a software developer after having my computer science degree in 2010. I worked in a multinational company, like a local team in Hungary for like 4 years. And in 2014, uh, I I joined an American project-based agency. Actually, while being a developer, I'm always testing the market, meaning I go for interviews and checking the opportunities, mostly to get to know how much is my value and that's how I met the American company. And they made it clear for me that this is not an actual employment job, how I thought from the job description, but it's project based. However, in that time, the Hungarian tax authorities introduced a very great structure for self-employment. And I was thinking, why would I not try it out? Worst case, I will go back to the company who I'm leaving, and I can do the mobile development in the regular team where I became a mid-level developer. Um, but actually, it's never happened. So since then, I'm working as a contractor. For a few years, I was front-end and mobile developer in international projects, um, and uh, um, and after a few years, I became a tech lead, meaning I was overseeing a few projects, architectural wise, helping new team members to join, doing recruitment, and I started to build my profile on freelance.com, so I get in contact with a few companies from Switzerland. And actually, the American company and the Swiss company gave me lots of projects. So I thought in the beginning that I don't know how many work I'm gonna have as a contractor, but honestly, I had much more than I could handle, so I needed to tell no a lot of time. And then how the American company was growing, I was growing with them. Finally, I became the CTO of the company. Before I became that, I lived as a digital nomad for 1 year. We visited Peru, Mexico, USA, Canada with my wife in that year. And while traveling, I was working as a senior software developer and tech lead for projects, just like I did from Hungary. And then 2018, I created my own company and started to build teams for awesome projects from the freelance network, which I already had at that time, and I'm still doing that. I'm in my company. I have a lots of things automated, so I still do have a lots of time to do development, fortunately. And nowadays I do Vue.js mostly on the front end and Node.js on the back end. And I'm not doing as much mobile than in the beginning. But I still try to keep my technical skills sharp. So that's maybe in a nutshell. And I can hand it over to you, Mihai.
Hey, first of all, thanks, Balint, for the intro. Um, well, what can I say regarding to your question is that obviously started out like everyone, and just as a, I mean, started out with a simple PHP MySQL project, and afterwards build it up progressively with Java, with other technical stacks that I won't necessarily go into because there are a lot. And afterwards, it's simply a matter of patience, perseverance, and I don't know, being a lot open to communication, and also something that Balázs also mentioned, either reaching out to various companies or going into discussions, trying to maintain a healthy relationship with them, and so on and so forth. That's how
All
it
right.
basically all started.
Okay, thank you so much. what are the typical paths to be able to grow your IT profile, like with good references? So did you try any alternative platforms or like Upwork, or you went for agencies, or how was it basically?
I can take the first answer. So for me, honestly, the best projects came from agencies. I had a few good projects from freelance.com, as I said, mostly from Switzerland. Um, those were not bad, but typically like small startup projects and some, you know, tools or web applications what the actual company wanted to outsource. I was not that involved into the core of the application. I didn't get much of a know-how. However, when I worked with agencies, I had the chance to work 3 times in San Francisco on site for a few months. And one of them, I did a native iOS application for Haylets. It was also a startup scaling up, and we did an Apple featured application, which is basically the most serious award from Apple, what your application can get in the App Store. And putting all these into your profile and CV, going to make your profile stronger and stronger. And then you just need to be cautious to always try to find a project which gonna be the next badass project or something what you would be proud of. And yes, as Mihai said, it's always very important to do the hard work and keep your client happy and keep the team happy, because that's how I got good referrals and recommendations sometimes. So that's how I did it. I didn't have much of a success in freelance platforms like freelance.com or Upwork. I built my private reference and private like reference list and profile, and I sent it out to the further projects and clients who I want to apply to. Yeah, I think that's
Okay,
how.
perfect. And we're gonna get to the topic that you just mentioned, Balázs, like whether it's easy or not to get a new project, or whether someone can, be left without a project, because I think that can happen. Okay, how about you, Mihai?
Well, there aren't necessarily any typical paths. I mean, it can be different for each and every individual. It's not necessarily, there isn't any guide on how to do it. So you should basically follow your instinct. If it feels right with a particular client, for example, to push forward and give it your best and something like that, yeah, go for that. Obviously, good things might come out of it, but it's a gamble. You may never know. That's why I don't emphasize on existing an actual path or anything like that. And regarding agencies or platforms, yeah, obviously Upwork, or even people I know actually use LinkedIn directly. So in terms of, because it's not necessarily about the platform, I think it's about a platform to be able to reach out and to find stuff, because honestly you can find something even on Facebook if you try hard enough or
Of
have
course.
luck. So yeah, but going back just a little bit on the typical paths, I think just going the difference between a generalist and a specialist, it's a thin line, if you ask me. And I think the best option is to actually do what interests you more, not to aim to become a generalist or specialist in a certain direction. If that particular technology stack or framework or language is in your liking, go for that, and that's it. It doesn't matter if you're doing only programming or operations or infrastructure. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's something that makes you happy and you thrive learning that.
So what are the must-have skills if someone wants to enter the international market or get better and better international projects? What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I think one of the most important is the English, like a good enough level of English. You don't need to be, perfect, and don't think that there is really high expectations, but you should be able to communicate your thoughts and arguing and speaking up. That's, I think, one of the number one. The other one is, I would say, more about the mindset. So you like to do something really good, and being passionate for something. Like, um, when developers asked me how I became a mobile or front end developer, I used to tell them that it's in my personality. I just like when in the in like in the morning there is a blank screen, and on the evening I was able to put lots of content and make things happen in the application. That's what I really like to do, and I was always passionate about. And if I found bugs, then I went and refactored and do all the things which needed to do to make it better, not just because of tasks and tickets and expectations, but just because I try to keep the quality high, and that's something which is valued in each project. And besides these two, like the good English and something what you try to be really good at it, I would say that it's important to be able to manage your own time, because if you work remotely, no one going to be there to ask something about your schedule. Everyone will be interested in the deliverables and to make sure that you complete what you're committed to. And I would say after some time, the cautiousness, which I already mentioned, it's also important, because you need to be able to identify what you would like to reach, what's your goal, and sooner or later you will experience that you need to say no sometimes, or you need to jump to another project because the current project is not something what you learn a lot. So it's another skill, probably a soft skill, which is, I would say, a must have to be able to grow in the international market.
Thank you. Okay. Mihai?
From my side, I think the bare minimum of skill set you need to have is, as Balázs also said, communication. I don't think the language is that important, as long as you make yourself understood, because a lot of people might know English, but they don't know how to communicate. So I think communication is the most important skill. Besides that, obviously teamwork, cooperation, all those kinds of things related to soft skills. And I don't know, and the technical skill set, to put it as that, but I want to hyphen that. It's not mandatory to be 100% an expert in Java or 100% an expert in any other technology or framework or tech stack. What I think it's important is that you need to have the drive, and you need to be passionate about your work, as I mentioned in a couple of minutes ago. Because if you have that drive, obviously you will have the interest to actually read articles, be up to date with what's changing in the tech world, be up to speed in picking up where you might have some gaps and stuff like that. I think those are the most important things.
How senior should someone be to start? What do you think? So is it required to have minimum 5+ years?
You can start an international career even at day one. I don't see, there's no cookbook for this.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on each and everyone's opportunity, to be more precise.
I'm not so I would say, if you on day one, I would truly recommend to find like a local company where you can easily connect to the team, understand the roles, understand the processes, be able to ask questions easily, or just, you know, being the senior developer in the next table and grab a coffee together and ask things informally. Because if this is your day one in an IT project, programming is just one of the challenging part. Um, Honestly, I would say that I'm glad that I kicked off my remote career being a strong mid-level developer. And even in our remote projects at Rollout IT, we rarely can onboard someone junior. We can onboard it if the team is big enough and we have the capacity for hand holding and for mentoring, because remote mentoring and make sure that it's a win-win situation for the junior developer and for the company and for the team is not that easy. Comparing sitting together in a room and working together on site. Um, yeah, that's how I see it.
Obviously, I agree with what you're saying, and yeah, that's the best way to start it off. But I mean, that 5 years ago was easier to achieve, and I think it was better. But nowadays, I think people are rushing into things, a lot of them, uh, and it's not everybody has a good outcome out of that. I mean, I saw people who had a really good outcome out of it, and they've grown to be really, really good professionals in what they're doing. But it really depends on the individual, if you ask me.
Okay.
All right. All right. I'm curious, do you prefer working in a cross-country remote team setup or with the team with fellow local developers? Balázs, what's your answer? What are the pros and cons? You can mention them. Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting question. I would say what I can say is only of my own experiences. So it's very subjective, and maybe someone has, you know, experience with like fully opposite from a fully opposite angle. I know excellent local teams in Hungary. Um, and if I would like to, I could find a great project and a great team probably within a month, or even shorter time. Obviously, I can find a project or a team which I could join in a week or something like that, or even less. But a good team or great team and great project, I would say within a month. And yeah, don't get me wrong. I have very, very limited knowledge about the Hungarian market. I'm working as a remote developer in the last like 7 years or even more. Um, how like pro and cons from that time and what I experienced, I would say in a cross-cultural team, I usually experienced more direct and more clear communication, because that's something what you need to do if you working remotely. Working on site, you know, there is more contact, there is more time to chit chat, to talk. There are other type of interactions, non-verbal interactions. It's just a different. I'm not saying which one is better but I experienced more clear and straightforward communication, which I like personally in like remote cross border or cross cultural teams. Um, and one thing which always attracted to me working remotely, because I was not judged by, you know, first impression based on my clothes, how is my weight or how is my outfit. um, I experienced a bit um, like being treated as a senior IT professional who is joining the team remotely to do his best to help out and to work together. And I gave the same respect immediately for all the other teammates. And sometimes it was very, very inspiring. Could be the exact same in local team, don't get me wrong. I have not much experience to compare, but these two I could highlight that I really like in like cross-border, cross-cultural teams.
Thank you. Mihai?
I think it's nice to work cross borders with teams across borders. It's nice to also see their methodologies of working, their concepts, their culture. I mean, it's a lot of diversity, obviously, but I also agree with what Balázs said, that working locally has its perks, obviously, as well, because with a local team, you bond differently. You can actually bond because you can maybe meet up, you can go for a coffee or drink a beer, I don't know, something like that. You can do some team outings. But I think each and one of them are nice. So it's good to experience both of them.
So my final question actually is, how risky is this? So am I going to have the next project for sure, or I may have zero income for a month? What do you think? What's your experience?
I can start. I never had any month in my contractor career when I had no projects to work on unless I wanted it. Like if I wanted to be free or not working as much or take a break, I did that. However, I would say it's risky and it's definitely very different than being employed. And you need to think about personally about your situation and what's the best for you, considering taxation, work-life balance, children, family situation, and a lot of other factors. One things which I do is that I never burn bridges, meaning I really try to put a lot of effort and work in what I'm doing, and as Mihai said in one of the question, if the users and the client is happy, um, then then there is small chance that you're not going to be able to continue with them, or after a while you are going to have a lot of happy client in your past, and if you feel that you need some more work, you can just shoot a few messages. And I always have a client from my past who has a project scaling up or a situation where they could use my skill set. Yeah, that's I think my short summary for that question.